Welcome listeners to episode 18 of the Running Guide podcast, where I aim to provide informative content and interviews with elite athletes from around the world, like in today's episode, where I'm chatting to a young Aussie middle distance runner whose dream of donning the green and gold as a young child took a slightly different path to the one he envisaged. Welcome to the Running Guide podcast, Jaryd Clifford.
Thanks for having me on.
Mate, really excited to have you on, mate. Really excited. Been out training today, mate?
Not yet, actually. I'm waiting for the girlfriend to finish up work, and she's going to drive me out to one of the hills we've got here in Eltham in Melbourne. So I can't really get there via public transport. It's a little bit hidden away. So she's going to be on the driving duties today.
Okay, awesome. So what, hill efforts or just a hilly run or?
Yeah, hill efforts. So they're short ones today. Usually we do long ones out there, but 290 seconds, 360 seconds and 630 seconds. So getting some speed for the domestic season.
Sure. So that's on the road. It's not grass or sand or anything like that, or?
We're actually really lucky out here. We've got a lot of gravel roads. If you go and find them. So yeah, it's just a gravel road. Pretty smooth though.
Okay. Yep. Cool. And what, long run Sunday tomorrow or?
Yeah, we usually head out to Westerfolds Park, and I'll have about 25k.
Okay. Yep, cool. All right, you compete at a very high level as an able-bodied athlete, but as a para-athlete due to a vision impairment that you were diagnosed with as a 3-year-old. So for the listeners who sort of aren't aware of your running story thus far, if you could sort of go into details of that vision impairment and I guess how your running journey started that led you to become a Paralympian at Rio in 2016 at 17 years of age. And now the current world champion at the age of 20 and basically being the man to beat in Tokyo Paralympic Games this September. So, yeah, tell us about all that.
Yeah, it's been a pretty crazy, 20 years for me so far. And, yeah, I was 3 years old. I was diagnosed with the degenerative condition, juvenile macular degeneration, and it's genetic. So Dad has it, but, he can still drive and stuff. So it can come in different ways, and it can deteriorate at different ages. So for me, it deteriorated in primary school. I was probably it was around the ages 9 to 11, and basically it affects my central vision. So my perception of detail is pretty poor, and I can see movement and stuff because my peripheral vision is still I think it's pretty normal, but my central vision is what really affects me. So in a race, when I'm running, I can't see the person in front of me other than maybe, a bit of the movement. And as soon as they get a couple of meters away, I can't see them at all. But in a pack situation, around the outsides, the person next to me and stuff, I can see them. So often I'm using my ears, but for me, growing up, I loved all sports. My dream has always been to represent Australia or play AFL at the highest level, which is probably the equivalent in that sport. So, yeah, when your eyesight's deteriorating and you're going through these big life changes, and although you're young, you still know what's going on. So, yeah, you kind of have to face this reality that is, the things that you dream of doing might be impossible in that specific way. But obviously, you can always find a way to achieve your dream. And for me, I found it through running, which, potentially was the sport that I was best at anyway. So maybe it's lucky in a sense that I found it. And then, through the Paralympic Games. And I managed to make my Australian debut age 16, I think, in 2015 at the World Championships. And, run for Australia at the Rio Paralympic Games in 2016. So it's been a crazy kind of, I've had to adapt to a lot of things in my life, but, in my family, we kind of approach these things as, just a challenge, and, we don't even make a big deal out of it. It's just something you just kind of get over and get on with things.
Okay, so you've got brothers and sisters, or?
Yeah, I've got a sister, Elsie. She's 15, in year 11 though. Okay. So, yeah.
Yep. So I believe the vision impairments got worse as you got older. So that's where those adjustments had to keep being made, and that's where you obviously just had to keep moving the goalposts and. Yep.
Yeah, no, it's gotten worse. Like my test results in an objective manner, it's definitely gotten worse, and especially in that kind of primary school time. And then also, this is a thing that can deteriorate extremely slowly for a lot of people, and maybe that's happening, across high school, which is, that's a long period of time, but it's also the things that you do in life change between, when you're 10 years old and when you're 20 years old. So maybe I notice it more doing new things. So, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to know how it's going. And as I get quicker, the challenges become harder as well. And when I push my body harder and when my races get longer, the challenges become more apparent. So, yeah, sometimes it's hard to know whether it's, still deteriorating now or whether it's just because I'm doing new things and harder things and pushing myself to try and do new things. So, and, you grow up and you turn 18 and everyone drives. So that kind of... for a while there, that rams home the reality that your life will be different, which, quite quickly you realise isn't a bad thing at all. But at the time, there's little things that, kind of make you go, this is a different way to live a life.
Yeah, yeah. So what AFL team do you barrack, mate?
I'm with the Blues. I was at the AFLW match last night, so we got the win.
Yeah,
but our men's team's been struggling of late, pretty much throughout my whole life. So hopefully this year can change.
Yeah. Carlton boy like Liam Adams. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So growing up, you're I believe your parents were great support and pretty keen to get you out there doing the ball games. So when your sight was deteriorating, there was a decision made to go to running for that reason, or how did that sort of evolve?
There was no specific sit down where we were just like, your eyesight's getting worse, you can't do a ball sport. In fact, while it was getting worse, I was so determined that I was still playing the ball sports and still playing footy and stuff like that. And so it was more just a natural thing. It was just like I was getting off the field in a lot of those ball sport games, and sometimes I'd be pretty frustrated because I knew I could do some of the things that my teammates were doing, but I just couldn't do it. It's a weird thing. That your body is capable of doing it,
Sure,
but something's holding you back. So the frustration potentially led to me deciding to take up running, which I'd already realised throughout primary school that I wasn't too bad at. So it was just a natural transition to that. There was never really any major, we definitely have to change because your eyesight's changing. It was just, if I want to fulfill my dreams and if I want to, reach the highest level of my potential, maybe that's the sport.
Yeah. I mean, obviously extremely determined. Let's go through your PBs, mate.
Sure.
And if you can sort of tell us a little bit of story behind them, anything you can remember. So let's start with 800 metres. You ran 1:53.57 in June over there in Germany in 2018.
Yeah, that was I don't run many 800s, and that is my PB. So it's probably the last 800 I ran, and it was in Mannheim. We were preparing for the 2018 able-bodied World Junior Championships. So there was obviously a bit of history surrounding my involvement in that, being the first Paralympian to compete in the Junior Championships. So, that was an awesome lead-in. I'm pretty sure a negative split that, maybe. 56 high, 56 low.
Okay. Yep.
So, and I'm running an 800 in a couple of weeks at the Milers Club at Melbourne University. So hopefully that PB can get updated.
Yeah, for sure. 1,500 metres, 3:45.18 in March in Sydney, 2018.
Yeah, so that was the run that qualified me for those able-bodied World Junior Championships. And at the time, the PB was something that was unbelievable. It was 3 seconds quicker than the time I'd ever run before that. And it was on the last day that I could get a qualifying time for the championships. And I'd spent the day before I won the national title and then gone to an Ed Sheeran concert that would booked in months in advance. So I didn't actually expect to run this race, but it was the last chance to run the qualifier, and I was up against Matt Centrowitz, who's the Olympic champion. So that was a crazy race. But for some reason I just haven't gotten in the right race, despite definitely being in the shape to beat that PB, but I haven't been able to actually beat it since. So despite, fully tapering for races and stuff compared to late night and the races in the days preceding. So hopefully I can beat that one again soon as well.
Sure. 1 mile, 4:09:41 in December down there in Geelong of 2018.
Yeah, it's not one of my better PBs. I think that's the curse of vision impairment. In terms of distances, the mile start line is probably the most brutal.
Okay.
And I don't tend to run them. The best one in Victoria is at the Melbourne Uni Miles Club, but that's the Victorian Champs. But it's usually too dark by the time they run it, so I usually miss that one. But yeah, maybe one day I'll get in the mile.
Sure. And this 3,000 metre, 8:15:97. That's moving. So November 2017 down in Melbourne.
Yeah, that's another one from a while ago. Yeah, that was. Don't remember much about that. I know I got the Diamond Valley Club record, which my training partner and guide Tim Logan snatched off me by 1 second. I think the next year. So, and I did try and run one the other week and I ran 8:17. So there's a bit of a rivalry for that club record at the moment.
Okay, sure. 5,000 metres, 14:22:45, November. Basically 2 weeks later of what you did in the 3,000.
Yeah, I was in a pretty good patch of form at that stage, and that was one of my last ever successful solo 5Ks. Although I did have a good pack to run with and follow for most of the part. So, yeah, that's probably one of my better PBs, although, once again, I know I've been in shape since to break it, so it's just a matter of getting in the right race. In Dubai, I ran 14:40 at the World Championships, and we were jogging for the first 4K nearly. So, hopefully I can rewrite that one as well.
Yeah, I think the age of 20, I think you're going to destroy all these. 10K, sub 30 boy, 29:44, July, Melbourne 2019. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is a recent one. This is the one I enjoy talking about at the moment because it probably, I finally was able to get in a race, in the last 12 months where I actually got, in terms of time, everything out of myself. So,
was that Albert Park? Or?
Yeah, that was the Albert Park one.
Yeah.
So I think I came 7th in the race, and my guide, Tim Logan, was actually in the race himself. So instead of using guides for that race, Athletics Victoria hooked me up with a bike guide who rode right next to me and had to keep telling me to change my trajectory around corners because I was going to hit the cones, and the bike would guide me into each hairpin bend. So that was a pretty interesting thing, and it worked pretty well, I thought. Obviously, yeah, so I ran pretty well there, and first and only time so far I've used a bike as a guide.
Okay, yep. Look, before we go into detail about the major champs, if we could sort of discuss the guide and tether logistics. So starting with the guide, I see you run without a guide in the 1,500 metres, but with a guide in the 5,000 metres. You can sort of explain why that's the case, and then just give us a rundown on the tether.
Yeah. So first of all, it's feasibility. So the 1,500 metres, I'm only allowed to use one guide, and a guide runner would have to run in lane 2, be able to speak to me the whole time to get the benefits out. So, and they'd have to stay in sync with me. They'd have to change pace in a split second, simultaneously with myself. So it's at the speeds that I'm running at, or closing at in the last 400 metres. The people in Australia that could guide me, they have their own careers doing Olympic events, and the Paralympic Games isn't really on their radar, and quite fairly. So for the 5K, I'm allowed 2 guides, so that really opens it up to who could possibly help me, and because I only have to run half the distance, and yeah, so that's pretty much why one and not the other. In terms of why the guide, it's pretty much like, obviously there's you train for something for 4 years, a lifetime even. So you just kind of want to get rid of any risk. So in terms of getting from point A to point B, obviously I can do it, although the guide does get rid of that risk. But it's a tactical race, and a lot of the time, although I can get from point A to point B in a race, I have no idea what position I'm coming. I have no idea how many laps to go in a 5K, especially when it's, when you're really cooked and it's hard to count. And I don't know what pace I'm going as well, so I don't know how to gauge my effort. So all of that, a guide can relay to me if they're running alongside me. They can give me that information. So pretty much that is the main reason, a tactical, tactical kind of.
So you don't have
help
to use
and
two
benefit.
guides in the 5,000. You just choose to use two. You could use one if you had to.
Yeah, you could use one.
Okay.
But once again, to use one, I'd probably need someone that is knocking on the door of the Olympic Games team.
Sure. And the tether, tell us about that.
Yeah, so the tether's 30 centimetres long, although 20 centimetres of that is taken up with the two loops at either end. So really the gap is only a little bit over 10 centimetres between the two people, myself and the guide. So that takes a little while to get used to, and we only really got it working in Flagstaff to the comfortability that I was hoping for, which was in the month leading in. So I was pretty nervous at the start, just getting in sync, because our arms have to be going up and down at the same time. Our legs have to be in sync, and with running and all the different techniques, staying in sync is actually harder than you think. Harder than most people think, just because people have different cadence rhythms and stuff like that. But then we also have to change over. So to avoid getting disqualified, we have to ensure that one guide is holding on to the tether at all times. So Philo Saunders, my coach and the first guide in Dubai, had to kind of take his hand out of the loop and just hold it with one finger, while Tim was able to get his hand holding the rope, and then Philo's allowed to let go. So we have to do that whilst running, potentially well under 3 minute per kilometre pace. So that was something that we took a while to get used to, and but yeah, now we ace it pretty much every time, and once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. But then the last guide thing is I have to cross the finish line first. So you could run a whole marathon and win by 8 minutes, but if the guide crosses the line first, even if it's only a fraction of a second, you'd get disqualified. So that's just to stop people pulling people over the line and dragging people and aiding as a pacer rather than a guide. So there's a lot to think about, but it's pretty easy really once you get to know it.
Yeah, just an art. Yeah. So with that tether, you might have said that, but when the guide swaps over, you're still keeping that tether with you, and that you say Tim has to dislodge and then Philo gets into that same tether, or does Philo jump in with a tether with him and then you need to connect onto that tether?
No, so it's the same tether.
Okay.
So
yeah.
at one point, whilst running at that speed, Philo and Tim will both be holding it at the same time.
Yeah, gotcha. And is there any limitation to when the tether change can be made, or?
We have to tell the officials before, and it has to be done on the back straight, so we just tell them which lap, and we have the entire 100-metre back straight to make the change.
Yeah, right, yeah. Okay. Has there ever had issues like when the tether's been dropped or anything, nightmare stories like that, or?
They're usually in races where it doesn't really matter, like an interclub race where we're just trialling it and we don't have to completely abide by the rules. So but
with other competitors, have you seen any horror stories at major championships where there's been a mix-up with a tether, or?
Oh, I know some people have, the runners has gotten too quick for the guide, and they've got tangled up and fallen over, and or people trying to direct the runner across the finish line, and then they've pulled up too early, and then the guide's gone across first, and they've got disqualified. So there can be mishaps, but we pretty much, when we're in training camp, we're a team, so we spend a lot of time practicing that stuff, and we know it's just a 1%er, but it's a 1%er that could define a whole 4 years of training.
Of course,
Yeah. We love being on top of that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Look, tell us about Tim Logan. He's he's sort of been by your side in more ways than one. Excuse the pun there, but he's been, you guys have been together for over a decade now. You're pretty good mates.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've, like you said, you've got that the art of that symmetry, arm swing down. Now, Tim's a pretty handy runner himself.
Yeah.
I see his PB's 14:03 for the 5,000. He ran 66 even at the half marathon on Gold Coast last year. So, how do you guys sort of work around your training together? Obviously, Tim must be doing some other work on the side. Obviously, he's doing a lot of his running and volume with you. If you could just sort of tell us how that sort of works.
Yeah, Tim's one of the most impressive runners I've met, and I know I'm biased, but he's a full-time apprentice electrician. So for a while there, he was getting up at some ridiculous hour, and I'm being serious when I say this. I think it was 4:30 a.m. and doing double runs, and then he'd go to work all day, and then he'd drive straight to the main session of the day without going home sometimes. So, and then he'd usually beat me in the training session as well. So, he's pretty tough bloke, pretty tough runner, but he also drives me everywhere I need to be, when it's about running. And he, we live luckily 10 minutes away from each other. So yeah, he'll pick me up for training pretty much all the time, and he'll drive me to races. And we had a training camp down the coast, and he was driving us back and forth. And yeah, the sacrifices he's made for me, he's only just been thrown back into racing for this summer, and that's because he actually ran the Dubai World Championships as my guide with 2 tears in his calf, and he still ran on it knowing that it could damage it further for the season ahead. And he's got his own ambitions, so that's a big sacrifice to make. And he knows how grateful, I don't even know if grateful is the right word to sum it up, but I am for his support. And but he just does it because we're mates. We were mates before there was any need for that to happen. We've run at the same club for a long time, so it's just kind of been a very natural thing to start happening. And he's the most natural person to be the guide on. Our techniques are pretty similar. Actually, no, they're pretty much the exact same. So it's pretty easy to stay in sync when we're doing the guiding as well.
No, it's awesome. Good on you, Tim. Mate, you're only 20, so and you're running the 15 and 5,000, so I sort of imagine you're not going too crazy with the volume or running doubles. How does your sort of weekly training sort of look at the moment, and how has that sort of changed since you've been with Philo? And will there be sort of any changes in your prep for Tokyo compared to Dubai?
Yeah, so Philo's been awesome. Obviously, he's one of the better coaches in Australia, I think, just in terms of not just the training, because running's running, but just the belief that he instills in me and the group. And we're all best mates in the training group. We're all riding each other's highs and lows, which is super special. And there's always a lot of laughs at training when we're in Canberra. But in terms of our actual training, I'll usually be running in my normal week 130 to 140k a week. So Monday is a 6k, 10k and gym. Tuesday, 8k run in the morning and then a session. Wednesday up to 16k. Thursday the same as Tuesday. Friday 10k in gym. Saturday a session, and then Sunday 25 up to usually 28k. Maybe once a year 30k. So, but in terms of changes, not really. That's pretty much been my program for a year or two now, and just we just rely on the sessions to keep us improving. I don't really feel like I need to have a jump in mileage to see an improvement. So yeah, the only change, and it's not really changed because we did it for Dubai, and that's just to keep implementing a bit of sauna work and steam room work, and not be afraid of running in the heat, just as practice for Tokyo.
Yeah, for sure. Certainly had some heat to deal with this summer, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been pretty hot, and I actually was supposed to go to Perisher, where some of the fires were, but we never got there. And then I was supposed to go to Canberra, but the smoke, and I know Canberra's had even hotter. Yeah, you're in Canberra as well, yeah. So you guys have had a lot of hot conditions, even compared to Melbourne.
Yeah, yeah, it's one that we want to forget. Just, yeah, I mean, luckily we weren't, the bushfire didn't come through this time, but yeah, certainly a lot of
Yeah,
smoke to deal with. And yeah, pretty keen for it all to finish. We've got hopefully a lot of rain coming this weekend, and yeah, hopefully we're
yeah,
done with it.
sweet.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
All right, let's
that would
let's
be
go
nice.
to the major champs, mate. 2016 Rio. Now, you were 17 years old. Were you still at school at that stage?
Yeah. So I didn't finish school until 2018.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
yeah,
So Paralympian and I believe school captain as well.
yeah, I
Mate, you're
was,
putting the
which is
pressure on
pretty
the other
funny.
kids there, mate. You got, come on.
Yeah, no. It was good fun that year.
Yeah.
And the major champs was pretty awesome, and I went to Flagstaff for the first time before that one. So, and yeah, I saw the rewards with the bronze medal in the 1500.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so at Rio, you finished seventh in the 15 and the 5,000. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
yeah. And the
Yeah,
5,000, there was a PB at the time, 15:06:64.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That was yeah, and I hadn't really done a heap of running leading into the champs. I saw back for the month leading in, just after trying to qualify for the championships. I had to run 3 races in the last 3 days
yeah,
of the qualifying period, or something crazy like that. So
yeah,
to run a PB in the 5K I was pretty stoked to be able to do that.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And what was the whole experience of Rio, mate? Must have blown you away.
Yeah, Rio's incredible.
Yeah.
The city's pretty cool. I don't, obviously there's all the debate whether they should have hosted something so big and
Mm.
stuff like that. But the actual Paralympic experience is awesome. You've got diversity of nationality, diversity of disability, diversity of background and stories, and it's just awesome. And you just meet and see so many incredible people, and your teammates with so many incredible people, and you're training day in day out with so many incredible people. So it's the best experience, and I learned so much about being the lead athlete and embracing who you are and being proud of who you are. And yeah, that was just a really good experience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then a year later over to London for the world champs there. So yeah, bronze in the 15, 350, 351.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
bronze there. So I went in dreaming of bronze, but not expecting to get it. Philo kept telling me was in the shape to get it. And yeah, it's one of the best feelings, that race, crossing the line with the bronze, just because it was in the London Olympic Stadium. It was just a really cool feeling. It's just so hard to describe. And people say, oh, it's just a blur, but it actually is just
yeah,
a blur.
okay, yeah. And let's get to the big one last year over in Dubai, mate. The world champs, picking up 2 gold medals, mate. So the 1500, 347.78. Now I just watched that race again the other day on YouTube, and I'll put a
Yeah,
link for the listeners in the show notes. But if I forget, guys, just search Jaryd Clifford at Dubai 1500 and it'll come up. But mate, I had to watch it again because it's such a great race to watch. Um, the big Russian, he went out, he looked twice the size of you, mate. Looked like a front
yeah,
row forward, mate. And he took off, and you sort of sat behind him in second place. You sort of put a little bit of a gap in the first couple of laps, and they brought you in. But then the bell rang, mate, and you just went for it, mate, which was pretty courageous and gutsy effort, mate. And just watching again, I was just, I knew the outcome, but I still got all nervous because he looked like he was coming, and he was. Just tell us
yeah.
about that race, mate. Did you sort of have any tactics? Were you going to go with 400 to go, or yeah, just tell us how that sort of played out.
The plan was from Philo was just to go for the finish line when you know that you can make it to the finish line without fading. And I instinctually made the decision at 400 because I heard the chase pack closing in by a couple of meters, and I thought maybe it would be good to get a jump on them, not knowing that the Russian in front of me would actually end up being my main rival in the last 100 meters.
Yeah,
If I hadn't known that, maybe I would have sat behind him longer, and maybe that would have been the wrong decision. So it was good that I went with 400 to go, although as soon as I hit the front, I started worrying whether I would be able to get to the finish line without fading. And
Yeah.
I think I might have faded in the last 20, but managed to hold on by 0.1 of a second. But that last lap, it just took so. It felt like it took ages. It didn't. It was one of my quickest last laps, but
Yeah.
time just stands still in that kind of
Yeah.
environment.
Did you just get the big hit of lactic when you went with that bell, and you thought, oh no, have I gone too early? Or
It's weird, like in a domestic Victorian race, 100% that's how I would have been feeling. But adrenaline in those races, the big ones, it actually does make it feel different, and that's why I see. This is what I do. I finish a race and I'm pumped and I'm excited and I can jump around, and it's like usually I can't do that. And then once the adrenaline kind of goes away and the media, you've gone through the media and it's just you and your family and your teammates, and it just suddenly hits you. And I threw up for 10 minutes after the race into a cardboard box, I think it was. So I was definitely lactic, although I just couldn't feel it.
Yeah.
It was restricting me like how it usually does, but
Yeah.
you just can't feel it the same way.
Yeah. No, it was awesome. I'll watch it many times again. It was awesome. Have
Yeah.
you raced most of those guys before? And are you sort of familiar with what their strengths and weaknesses were? Or
It was the first time in my career that Russia was allowed to compete. So the Russians was the first time I was competing against them.
and
And I
they
had
were all,
run
and
against
they
the
were certainly all up
Algerian.
there, the Russians, weren't they? I mean, there was three of them behind you.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were strong.
Yeah.
They were pretty strong. I think it was second, fourth, and fifth or something
Mm.
like that. So,
Mm.
but the thing with para is, we don't have a diamond league. Australia's a long way away from Africa, where some of those guys race each other. So I hadn't actually raced anyone in my category really since 2017. So just over 2 years. I had no idea what their tactics would be.
Okay.
Just kind of have to, pardon the pun, you are going in blind tactically as well.
Mm. Mm. And the 5,000, you picked up the gold, 14:40:40. What was the? Was that 2 days later? Or was it a day later? And were you confident that you could take that race out? Or yeah, tell us about that one.
I had a week and I knew I was super fit. I knew if
Okay,
they
right.
had run, they had to run a week. If they had to run a minute quicker,
Mm.
at least in the early stages, I could have gone with it. I was pretty confident in my fitness at that stage. So, but I don't know why, because a lot of the guys in the 5K are marathon guys, and they'd see me kick down in the 1500, but for some reason they didn't take the pace out very hard, and we went through 3K in 9 minutes something, which is pretty slow for us, and the 4K didn't really get any quicker either. So pretty much sat back until a lap to go, and I think the last lap was 57 seconds, and the last K was 2:40. But I didn't even have to, really go out of my comfort zone until 400, 300 to go. So that race was a little bit less stressful than the 1500 meters.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. I haven't been able to find that on YouTube. I don't know if you found it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll send you a link. I think
Okay.
I've got it somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And Dion Kenzie, he picked up the bronze there. He was the reigning world champion there in the T38 category of the 1500, but he picked up the bronze there. So that's I see 3 podiums and 3 consecutive world champs. So he did well. And
Yeah.
your good mate Rogues there, Michael Roger, he picked up the silver there. Lost it,
Yeah.
and then got it back again. So
Yeah.
that must have been some
Yeah.
stressful hours for you guys.
Oh, it was pretty funny because his race was right after mine, and I remember he, risked missing the cool down just so he could watch my 1500. The call room, just so he could watch my 1500, and then, we celebrated his silver because obviously, his intentions are with the marathon now, but
Yep.
so silver was still a big success for him, and then we were cooling down. We found out that he'd been, quite ridiculously disqualified for some reason, which ended up being overturned, but it did dampen the mood for an hour or two, a little bit. But as I said, we're a team, so we ride the highs and lows together. And highs and lows happened. It went high and then a low and then a high in the same night. But it was pretty good fun.
Yeah, no, for sure. You guys finished 7th overall with 8 gold, 6 silver, and 9 bronze, so not too bad there.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool opportunity for me as well. Obviously, my bronze in London added to the medal tally, but this was the first time I'd really significantly helped the Australian medal result, which was pretty special.
Right, yeah. So going into Tokyo now, world champion, mate. So I assume there's a bit of pressure there. What's the plan going forward from here? Will you head over to Flagstaff again with Philo's group beforehand?
Yeah, so we're just going to try and keep everything as routine as normal. So most years we do go to Flagstaff for a month before our major kind of Australian winter peak, which northern summer. So we'll go to Flagstaff in July, come back to Cairns for 1 week, and then head over to Tokyo a couple of days before the race, and then it's go time. Pretty much the thing that I've been thinking about every single run for as soon as the Rio Games are over. So all the pressure though is I actually perform better under pressure. That's what I found. So and also I think that whole thought process around thinking that you perform under pressure also helps. So I actually am really looking forward to it, and I'm not scared of voicing my goals, which are to try and win 2 gold medals. Obviously 1 I'll be stoked with. So, but yeah, the dream is to win 2 again.
Yeah, and what's the time difference between the 2 events? You said it was a week. The other time, is it that long for this meet?
Yeah, it's not as friendly as Dubai. There's the 5Ks first in Tokyo, and then there will be 1 day off, and then the heats of the 1500, and then the 1500 final. So 3 races, 4 days, and they're all in the middle of the day, which in Tokyo is hot. So, which will then obviously mean that recovery is going to be a little bit harder than if it was at night, especially after a 5K. But the good thing is the 5K is probably looking as if it will be my main event in Tokyo, just off my Dubai results. So I think if I can win the gold medal in the 5K, I found it in Dubai after the first gold medal, the pressure lifted, and when pressure lifts, it is actually a lot easier for your body to recover. So hopefully I can emulate that kind of feeling again.
Sure. And would you use Tim and Philo again as guides in the 5,000?
Yeah. So they're penciled in as the 2 guides, same setup as Dubai.
Yeah. Okay. Flagstaff. Tell me more about that. Obviously the altitude's good, but what else makes it so great?
So Flagstaff is.
Is there a lot going on besides the running?
Yeah, actually, well, in terms of altitude locations, I'd say it's one of the most balanced places to go because there is so much to do. It's a little city really, and you hardly even know you're on a mountain except when you go for a run, just because the air it's obviously quite hard to run. But there's like the college, there's heaps of cafes, heaps of places to eat out. There's a lot of places to do. We're not that far from the Grand Canyon as well. A lot of different canyons. So there's heaps to do, and you can go all the way up to nearly 3,000 meters, and then you can go down to 1,000 meters. There's flat to run on at 2,000. There's hills. There's 3 or 4 tracks in the town as well. So it's one of the better places that I've been to train.
So after Tokyo, you'll still only be 21 with so much running ahead. Will you sort of look to extend the distance that you sort of race and maybe consider the prospect of running the marathon in, say, Paris 2024 or maybe even later, LA in 2028?
Yeah, it's. I love the marathon. I love the whole idea around it, and I definitely want to run them. 2028, I reckon that's a lock in, but 2024 is still something that I haven't ruled out, and I think we'll just have to see how I perform on the track in Tokyo. And there is also the option to focus on the track for 2024, but also have a marathon because obviously it's at the end of the games, so it won't hurt my track chances to just have a dip and see how it goes.
Yeah. Is
if I
there a
run the qualifier.
10,000 event for your category or?
Nah, so just the 15 and the 5 for me, and
Oh,
then
okay.
straight up to the marathon.
Oh, gotcha.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I wouldn't rule out trying to do the track races and the marathon in 2024 and see how that goes. But
Yeah.
the main focus for a marathon in terms of, the marathon being the priority is probably 2028.
Yeah. Yeah. I have heard that there's going to be some of the majors are going to be doing marathons for Paralympics. Is that true? Para athletes, I should say.
Yeah, yeah, London's been doing it for years,
Okay.
and Boston is doing it. I think potentially my training partner Michael Roger. I'm not sure if he's doing it, but I know he's been invited. So yeah, it's awesome where it's going, and hopefully by the time I'm running them, year in year out, there's a para athletics scene established, which will be awesome.
Yeah. 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 For sure. Um, Look, you're a very talented and avid writer, mate. Where did that sort of interest come from? And are you sort of still involved in writing articles and blogging?
Yeah, so I write for Runners Tribe occasionally, and obviously with 2020, there's a lot that's going on, and it's hard to, write all the time. And obviously, when I write, I get quite invested in the people that I'm writing about and their stories. So sometimes that can be draining, but I'd love to get back into it a lot more, and I think it's something that I'm pretty passionate about, and something, I just like telling people stories, and it's a place where I'm definitely headed down. So
Yeah.
we'll have to see after Tokyo, but it's so hard to think past August at the moment.
Yeah, nah, for sure, mate. Keep your focus there. Do you mind if I read an article that you wrote for Runners Tribe back in May 2018, and that was about Josh Harris, who was a former guest on the show, relating to his 2017 World Marathon Champs. Mate,
Yeah,
yeah, it just sounds great. Hopefully, mate, I don't make a meal of it.
nah, that's okay.
Alright, yeah, here we go. Dreams and nightmares are conflicting phenomena. One is what we endeavour for, the reason for the toil. The other is simply what we hope never takes place, the dreaded disaster. In running, they are untamed beasts, bestowed with unbridled power, wilfully determining the fates of those brave enough to throw their hat in the ring. It is the nightmares which become the creators of fear, of the moments cast in the shadow of bleak and brutal despair. It is truth and possibility embedded in nightmares that renders running such a precarious pursuit. It is true that running can be cruel. Standing atop London's iconic Tower Bridge, Josh Harris understood the candour of this statement. Emblazoned on a ceiling of unabated blue, the sun beamed down expectantly on the mighty River Thames. The noise from the crowd lining the city's ancient street rose and fell with zealous gusto. The 2017 World Championship Marathon was preparing to embark on a meandering journey. For many, the day would witness their success, their reward at the end of a long road of sacrifice. However, for one runner, things would be different. On that day, Josh Harris would simultaneously live both his dream and nightmare. Mate, it's a great read, and you're extremely talented with putting words
Thank
together.
you.
Yeah, no, it
Thank you.
sounds really
Yeah,
good.
and Josh's story was just one that, as I said, I'm invested in the stories I tell, and
Yeah.
his was just one that was just so incredible. And that whole thing about your dream and nightmare, and for him that was true. So and I love telling people stories, so it's definitely something that I want to do in the future.
No, you should, mate. You're a talented man. Look, para athletes like Dylan Alcott and Kurt Fernley have sort of done an incredible job at raising the awareness, I guess, and creating conversation around chasing your dreams and having belief in yourself, regardless of what physical limitations you sort of dealt with. I can only imagine you sort of use those guys as a huge role model in your journey for motivation. Would that be right?
Yeah, Kurt and Dylan are doing incredible things, and Matty De Rosario as well now, and fellow vision impaired athletes like Russell Short, who's a shot putter, and Chad Paris, who's a 100-meter runner. So they're all people that I've looked up to, and how hard they work, and how they're not just incredible athletes, but they're changing the way people perceive disability it's something that I want to get into for sure. And
Yeah.
once I hopefully do well in Tokyo, and potentially that platform will become even better for me to be able to impact others and help others.
Yeah, I mean, I guess looking from that side is that obviously you're out there for your personal goals and winning world championships and Paralympic medals and that, but understanding that also brings awareness to it, doesn't it? So I guess and you can take that on board and I know I think you do a bit of public speaking or seminars, do you? Or
Yeah. So I've been doing a few. One of my most recent ones was at Toyota too. So I'm starting to get into that area, which is pretty cool and pretty exciting, and I'm really enjoying it. So, if anyone listening is interested, let me know.
Yeah. Okay, for sure. I'll whack some. I'll chat to you later, but I'll whack some links down below in the show details. Mate,
perfect.
were you down at Lakeside on Thursday night watching the boys and girls get around? Yep.
Yeah, I was. There was some pretty good racing. I enjoyed it quite a lot.
Yeah, no.
Stewie and Jess are just incredible, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
They're just both dominant, and I thought Sam McEntee's performance was pretty gutsy as well.
Yep, for sure, mate. I know. Things are looking really good. All right, mate, before we finish up, is there anything else that you'd like to sort of add to the conversation that I haven't covered?
Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, but obviously as a Paralympian, and the Paralympic Games being this year, just anyone listening, if you haven't already, get to know our Paralympic athletes, especially our distance runners. Paralympic distance running is going through a golden era at the moment. Michael Roger is the marathon world champion, and he's, holds the world records from the 1500 up to the marathon, so he's doing incredible. And then there's Dion Kenzie, who's, been a world champion in the past in the cerebral palsy 1500 meters. And then Sam Harding and myself, we could have two blinkies or vision impaired athletes on the start line in the 1500 meters. So it's pretty exciting, and there's heaps of great stories out there. So, a lot of us are on Instagram or Twitter, so follow us and get to know our stories and follow our journey onto Tokyo, because I'm sure when you're sitting in front of the telly watching, seeing what we're doing now will make that all the more meaningful. So, the Paralympic Games in Tokyo are just going to be absolutely incredible.
No, fantastic. No, well said, mate. No, we're all looking forward to it. We love Olympic year, definitely.
It's one of the better years.
It is, and all the stories and all the journeys and all the pathways people are on to get there, and we need to hear more of those stories in able-bodied and the para athletes. Yeah, mate. Thanks so much for being a guest on the Running Guy podcast. And sort of
no worries,
sharing your inspiring story thus far with, I guess, many more incredible chapters to come, mate. So, look, all the best in your prep for Tokyo. I'm sure you're going to smash it, but we'll be extremely proud, whatever the result is for yourself and the rest of the Aussie team, mate.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. And, thanks for having me on.
No, thank you very much, Jaryd. All the best, mate.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Okay, guys, thanks again for listening to the Running Guy podcast. Follow along if you haven't already. Check out the links in the show notes below. Over to some of Jaryd's socials there. Follow him along on the rest of his journey. Give it a thumbs up if you're enjoying what I'm providing, and leave some ratings over there at iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Thanks, guys. Stay safe.